is poetry? We left you on a cliffhanger. I had just read, Jasmine, a poem to demonstrate the importance of rhythm. That poetry isn't all about just what it looks like on the page. It's also about what it sounds like and the flow of the poem when it's read out loud.
For those students who like definitions of things, we also try to define it. If you have a look back at episode 1, you can have a little look at what we thought was a definition of poetry. Let's get cracking with today. What are we doing today?
Today, you are going to analyse that poem that I read to you and tell us all the techniques, some of the techniques that the poet has used to make it so powerful.
I am.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin. So I'll start by saying I refuse to forget you. I refuse to be silenced. I refuse to neglect you. That's for every last soul up in Grenfell, even though I've never even met you. That could have been my mum's house, or that could have been my nephew. That could have been me up there, waving my white plain tee up there, or my friends on the ground trying to see up there. I just hope that you rest and you're free up there. I can't feel your pain, but it's still what it is. Went to the block just to chill with the kids. Troubled waters came running past. I'ma be right there just to build you a bridge.
Really like the repetition. I refuse to. I refuse to. I think it reinforces the poet's thoughts about not forgetting those who may have passed. Secondly, using the triple, or as some of you know it, the rule of 3, where it says could have been, could have been, could have been, tells me this poet feels fortunate. They feel blessed because it could have easily been him. I say him, but it could have been a female who's written this poem. However, the lexical choices went to the block, I'm a be right there, led me to say that actually this poet is male. There's nothing wrong with stereotyping when analysing poetry, is there?
Not at all, no. And I'll give it away now. The poet is in fact Stormzy.
I knew it! I knew it! I knew it!
I know you really like Jay-Z. And I was reading up about rappers, okay? And Jay-Z is convinced, and he, is very vocal in saying that rap is poetry and should be regarded as poetry. And rappers, they use their own way of speaking, they use their own rhythm, they use their own dialect, and they use words and sentence structure that you couldn't really get away with if you were writing in your English book. Hence the breaking the rules thing.
Okay, yeah.
I was talking about earlier. And, to kind of complete my argument here, Bob Dylan recently won the Nobel Prize for Literature, didn't he? For his poetry.
First time ever a poet, well, a singer-songwriter, has won such an award. I can't believe, actually. No, I can't believe Stormzy. Would I put Stormzy and poetry in the same sentence? Perhaps not, but it did read poetically, and it did use poetic devices to communicate his feelings and his messages about recent events. As for Bob Dylan winning the Nobel Prize for Literature for his songwriting, I think poetry and music are closely related. If you strip away the instrumentation, what are we left with? Words. We are left with words. Words that are sometimes rich with imagery. Words that sometimes resonate with us. I can see why he's been awarded such an accolade. However, I'm not going to lie, I struggle to call musicians poets and poets musicians. Maybe that is their issue. There's a certain stigma of respect, I think, attached to poets in the literary canon and the poetry in which they've produced. Maybe that's why so many musicians see their work as poetic, because they want the same recognition as Coleridge and Shakespeare. And why not? Maybe that is tomorrow's vision for the PoetryBox. Turn mainstream music, Ed Sheeran if you're listening, into its own art form that can be studied and respected as highly as the likes of Browning and Agard and Duffy.
And if you listen to the lyrics of the original Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel, the one they've covered for the Grenfell Tower disaster, it is beautiful.
It is. Not all rap or pop songs, I don't think, can be considered poetry. If you take the music away, you're sometimes left with just cliches. Baby, yeah. That was kind of my Britney Spears.
Okay, but I suppose you can get bad songs just as you can get bad poems.
So maybe we need to change our discussion from what is poetry to What is good poetry? What makes a poem? What makes a good poem? What makes it powerful, thought-provoking, and beautiful? So, here's something I prepared earlier.
Okay.
Have a little listen to this. This is called In the Attic by Andrew Motion. Even though we know your clothes will never be needed, we keep them upstairs in a locked trunk. Sometimes I kneel there, holding them, trying to relive time you wore them, to remember the actual shape of arm and wrist. My hands push down between hollow, invisible sleeves, hesitate, then lift patterns of memory, a green holiday, a red christening, all your unfinished lives fading through dark summers, entering my head as dust.